leaving the ego behind. What is the essence of meditation? What is it really about? It's learning to stand back and to allow God to come into the forefront of your life. So often in our experience, we find that we are the center of our world. So many of us, I think, see reality revolving around us. And we think quite naturally of situations and of people primarily in terms of how is this going to affect me? Now that's all right as far as it goes. But if we really imagine that we are at the center of the world, then we're never going to see any situation or any person or ourselves as we really are. Because of course we are not at the center of the world. God is at the center. Now meditation is trying to take that step away from self-centeredness to God-centeredness. And the result is that we find our own place in the world. We find where we should be. And we find our relationships in the right order, our relationships with one another, our relationship with creation, and our relationship with God. And what we discover, and what's very important for each of us to discover, is that we do have an essential place in God's plan. Each of us responding uniquely to the unique gift of our own creation. And perhaps that is the most important thing for people in our society to discover. Their own dignity, their own unique gift, the gift of their own creation. Now, how can we set about this? Meditation is a discipline. And it's the discipline of learning to stand back, learning to focus our attention, or perhaps even better, focus our whole being on God. Now we have to begin somewhere. And we have to begin with ourselves. And we have to begin by learning to be silent ourselves. We have to really begin by learning to be ourselves. Not to be, as it were, defining ourselves by some activity, whether that activity is some work or some thinking process, but simply to be. Now, this is the purpose of the practice, of the art of meditation, in learning to say our word, our mantra. Now, to meditate, what we have to learn to do is to sit down, to be still, to be as still as possible physically, and then to begin to recite in our heart, in our mind, in our being, our word or our mantra. And the word I recommend you to recite is the word ma, ra, na, tha. That's 4 equally stressed syllables. And you sound those syllables interiorly, silently, without moving your lips. And as you sound them, you listen to them. Ma, ra, na, tha. And the purpose for sounding them, the purpose for saying your mantra, sounding your mantra, is that that becomes the focus of your attention, of your concentration. You're not thinking about anything. You're not, as it were, pursuing any insights that are coming to you, any thoughts that are coming to you. You leave those. You let them, as it were, fall away. And what you do is come to a greater and greater silence where the only sound in your mind is the word, the mantra. Now you have to learn, and the recitation of the mantra will teach you this, you have to learn to be patient, to be extremely patient. You have to learn to be humble. In meditating, we're not seeking, as it were, to possess God. We're not seeking to come to some profound insights about God. We're seeking simply to be the person we are called to be. We're seeking simply to accept as fully as possible and to respond to as fully as possible the gift of our own creation. And to do that, we have to learn to be still, to be silent, to be truly humble. You're all familiar with the word egoism. The word ego is used a great deal in modern parlance, jargon. And basically, in meditation, we are leaving the ego behind. We're not trying to see with the ego, as it were, but we're trying to be ourself, our true self. And the curious paradox is that once we give up trying to see, once we give up trying to possess, we see all, and all things are ours. Now, when you're beginning, you need to understand the simplicity of it. And the simplicity is just this, that every morning and every evening you give yourself the opportunity to be in utter simplicity, to be in humility, not asking yourself, what is happening to me now? Not trying to analyze yourself. Am I enjoying this? Am I getting anything out of this? But during this time of being, to put the self-reflective ego entirely aside. And this every morning and every evening. And during the time of your meditation, just to say the word from the beginning to the end. Ma, ra, na, tha. Now that's how to begin, and you have to begin on faith. There is no way that you can, as it were, evaluate what is happening? When you begin, you have to begin in faith. But beginning will lead you into faith. You can't, as it were, have a stab at meditating. Say your word for 3 minutes, then stop to see how am I getting on. You have to learn, and you have to require patience to learn, to say your word from the beginning to the end every day. Where does this tie in Christian terms? In Christian terms, we know God has sent His Spirit to dwell in our hearts. In other words, His being is within us. And meditating is simply being open to His being. Listen to St. Paul writing to the Corinthians. For the same God who said, "Out of darkness let light shine," has caused His light to shine within us, to give us the light of revelation, the revelation of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. That light and that glory are to be found in our hearts. If only we will learn to be still, to be silent, and to be humble. And that is the exact purpose of the mantra, to lead us to that silence, stillness, and humility.